On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 2012. We're going to be taking a look at Coldplay, and they're going to be performing Fix You. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So I am going to be jumping into this one, so to give you fair warning, there is a link in the description below if you want to watch it the whole way through without me interrupting it, and I strongly advise that you do that. But this being an analysis video, of course, we're going to be pointing out a few things, but let's see how the guys get on.
When you try your best but you don't succeed, when you get what you want but not what you need, when you feel so tired that you can't sleep, stuck in reverse, when the tears come streaming down your face, 'cause you lose something you can't replace, when you love someone but it goes to waste, what could be to fix you.
So I'm just going to jump in here. This song, just in general, is a dynamic masterpiece. And this live performance is executed, to the highest level in order to get that same dynamic journey throughout the song. But live, when we start, we've obviously just got this classic organ sound, which I believe I read was actually one of, or at least a piano or a keyboard that Gwyneth Paltrow's dad used to own, and it was in their flat. And this song is written about that loss that Gwyneth had. I think that she and Chris met just after her father passed away, so that's what really inspired Chris to write this song. So having this sound, obviously that connection to her father, and he just found that he got so many great sounds from this particular keyboard. This organ sound is just great. It fills in so much frequency. It's such a thick sound. That's a great thing about organs in general. But it's really just setting the scene for the rest of the song. And as all of the instruments come in, this is the important thing to point out, that we're not just all in all the time. Each instrument comes in one at a time, and the guitar is especially important because, let me just take it back here, because listen to the guitar, it's just two notes.
To fix you.
It is so simple, it's so subtle, but that's what is so important, to not overplay, not do too much, especially when you're at this kind of level dynamically, because this is all putting you in a place as an audience where there's somewhere to go. And if you're hearing this song for the first time, you don't know where you're going, but this is why it's been written in this way, that we just get a couple of notes on the guitar, and everything about this performance and everything about the instrumentation in this song so far, you're storing it, and you're just hearing two notes on the guitar. Obviously there's a bit of delay on there, really nice tone, really nice sound, but as we then progress, the guitar will change into now not single notes, but something that's more open dynamically, such as strumming or just hitting the same notes over and over again, but in a more aggressive way, because that's what happens when you build a journey into a song. But another thing that I want to draw your attention to, of course, is Chris Martin's lead vocal, because it is so unique. His vocal style is so unique, because if you go to a singing coach, more often than not, they will try to eradicate your break between your chest voice and your head voice. And this is another interesting thing about his voice in general, but especially this song. I've seen it written down and described as, the intro, when you're looking at people describing what the song is about, they'll say the intro starts with Chris, going into his falsetto. And I'm not exactly sure that it's actually his falsetto. It sounds in places more like his head voice, and he's just allowing this flip in his vocal to happen. And what happens when you get into falsetto, there's a disconnect of the vocal cords, and then it gets into quite an airy sound. But his sound isn't airy up at the top. It's still quite connected. It's a lot lighter, but it sounds like, for example, let me just play a bit.
When you get what you want, but not what you need.
Like there. And this is the other thing. When I was saying about going to a vocal coach trying to eradicate the break in the voice, what I mean is if you're going na 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 na, like there, that going na na na, I've gone up into my head voice without a break in there. And this is something, again, just singing the way that you sing. And Chris just doing it how he does it, because as you can hear with my voice, I mean, it's not a super high note. I wouldn't be able to go into falsetto. It's not something that my voice does, and my voice has never had a break in it. I've never been able to kind of flip into head voice. It just kind of goes na, and it doesn't do anything in there. And it is annoying sometimes, because I know that in order to unlock even more range in your voice, allowing that flip to happen is a really useful tool to then be able to relax your voice as you go higher. But my voice has never done that, and this is the point, that Chris's voice does do that. So rather than him trying to eradicate that flip in his voice, he's just allowed it to happen and kind of just floats up to that. Listen as well in a little bit more detail, because you can hear where he then goes back into his chest voice.
When you get what you want.
On one, he kind of goes, when you get what you want, and he kind of falls back down into that. Obviously, I'm not doing falsetto there. I'm just putting air in my head voice, going na 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 na, and then exaggerating that movement down into chest voice that Chris has. But again, even that kind of falling into chest voice with a little bit more aggression and volume in the sound, that's just part of his voice. So it's great. Obviously, I have isolated the vocal, as you would have been able to tell, and we've got the vocal pitch monitor on the right hand side, which you can see the notes that he's hitting, what his voice is doing. And what I love about this live performance is they haven't attacked it with pitch correction. And that's something that's happening all the time nowadays with live performances, is they all get pitch corrected before then getting released either on YouTube or as the official video, released generally on official channels.
When you feel so tired you can't sleep.
Again, when you feel so tired, and then he kind of comes in with more of that chest voice sound. But I mean, it's not really that offensive or as as exaggerated as I'm doing it. I'm just pointing it out so you can hear it a little bit more clearly. His tone is consistent throughout, so it means that when he goes into that, he's kind of not going na 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 and then kind of leaning into it in chest voice. He's still allowing it to come down, but you do hear that connection just being a little bit more solid. But let's move it forward a little bit.
'Cause you lose something.
And there, the ooh, cause you lose. You can hear a little bit of a flip in there, cause you lose. But because I can't do that flip, it means that unfortunately I can't really demonstrate it. And there are vocal coaches that will say, well, you don't want a break in your voice. You want to be able to connect your lowest note to your highest note without any flips going on. And that's generally what people try to do with their voice. But this is the point, that Chris and the overall sound that he gets is unique because he's just singing like he sings. He hasn't gone to a vocal coach who's taught him to do this. It's just what his voice does. And going up there, going na na na, up there, he might not find that very comfortable, and his voice just wants to flip, so he just allows it to happen, which is just now part of the Coldplay sound. And it's great because by just singing the way that you sing and singing the way that Chris sings, it makes it unique, because there's only ever going to be one of you, and however your voice works, if it does something a little bit different, just embrace that and try to use it musically, stylistically. Just to quickly demonstrate what I was talking about with the guitar and how all these instruments just come in at exactly the right time but are never overplaying. And this is the other thing, look out for when the drum kit comes in fully, because that's your total change dynamically. It's going to have such an impact, and it definitely does. I mean, they let off fireworks and everything at that point. But have a listen to this. So here we've literally got, just two notes, and then I think we then kind of change as we get into the verse, but let's listen on. I mean, again, even that is so subtle, moving from to, it's less offensive, and you've got that tiny change that's going to give you something different melodically in the background when the vocal comes in. Tiny detail, but these are the kinds of things that are going on all the time. These really subtle changes that when you're listening to the vocal you don't really notice, but when you kind of dive into the instrumentation and the way that this has been arranged, it's just great on so many different levels. Now, that was interesting because I believe Chris blended that run going up. So you do hear that slight flip in his voice, and if he was going into falsetto, you wouldn't be able to blend all of those notes together, kind of going, no. It would kind of go, no, and it would break off. You'd hear the air in the sound before kind of notes came in again. So that line there is what makes me think that that's actually flipping into his head voice, because you wouldn't be able to do this into falsetto because it's a totally different register. You can't blend chest voice going up into falsetto and then falsetto back into chest voice with one held note. And I think at the beginning, na na na, that you can tell that Chris is accessing that in his chest voice, and it seems like that is quite a high note for his chest voice. So he's kind of really leaning into it and then allowing his voice to flip up into that head voice place. And here we go, because now we are building up, because something is about to go down. It is so subtle, because the guitar, as I said, we've just been having these single notes, but now, and by the way, if you're trying to play along with this and you realise that you can't play along, it's because this is in E flat, so you'd need to detune your guitar by a semitone. But if I transpose it and just play it in E, just take it a semitone higher, it means that we're not on a clean tone anymore, but we've got this sound of hitting what is the B string and the high E string, and this is going to sound a semitone higher because it is. But we've now kind of got this strumming sound rather than the single notes. So as soon as that kind of starts, as soon as we start with that, dynamically, this is now in a different place. I think we've got a little bit of hi-hat coming in as well. Listen out for that in the background. And I mean, just to point out, as I said, it's about to go down. I have just changed my tone to make it a little bit more relevant to what we're hearing. Again, this is going to be a semitone higher, but we've got this little slide up to the 12th fret. And even that is great, just taking it down a semitone at the end, because that is now effectively telling everybody musically that we're about to start again. Because we've changed now into this more of a strumming action and we've got lots more notes going on here rather than... You can hear how much space there is there, but here... There's no space, so you haven't got any time to breathe, and that's pretty much what it is. We're taking out that relaxed sound where you would be taking a breath musically to now breathing quickly. Everything's obviously pushing along now with all of those strums going in, and the important thing is, again, how simple this is. It's not as if we've kind of we haven't got loads of playing going on. It's just a really simple melody line. But I've taken it back a little bit so that we can appreciate this dynamic change. And now, I mean, the killer is not only the drums now being all in, open hi-hat, and, having that snare in there so much. It's not as if we've just got one snare or a couple of snares per bar. We've got this, snare coming in, 4 times? Let's have a listen. I did kind of move my hand with it. So it's this, boom, boom, da, da, boom, da, boom, da. So rather than just going boom, da, boom, boom, da, with kind of a straight, regimented beat that's not really got any personality or any bounce or energy in there, we've got a lot of energy in this particular pattern because of the snares that are coming in more than they normally would do. So it's effectively like playing double time, but still having bounce in there. Once the vocals come in and the backing vocals come in, that's now everything fully open. And just quickly, it's a really difficult one to jump into. I've just taken it back. I mean, the more I listen to those drums, the more I love them because it's so straightforward, but it is so solid. Sometimes you just can't beat a great drummer just giving you solid playing, solid foot pedals, solid snares. But anyway, getting back to the guitar, the killer again is not just the guitar, it's the chord changes underneath. So, I mean, yeah, because I'm a semitone higher, I won't be able to play that part of the guitar, but I'll play the notes we're getting from the bass, because the guitar isn't changing from what I played previously, but the bass is changing, and this is what makes it interesting. Let's have a listen. E flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, C, A flat, E flat, B flat. So because the bass is changing, this is it. You've got this undercurrent of changes happening all the time, but you've got the relevance of the riff going on that's not changing. It's the same thing being played. So that's why it works so well, especially, by the way, that change up to the C. It's a new sentence, even though we're used to hearing these chords or these notes because we've just heard them. By changing up to that C, it gives it a totally new sound, and that's it. It's starting a new sentence, so it's like we're hearing a conversation that we haven't heard before, but it is relevant because the guitar's staying the same, but it's saying something different. If they just looped it around to the E flat again, then you'd start to think, oh well, it's getting a little bit boring because I already know this, and your brain and your ear tends to fast forward to the end of, the 4 bars or the 8 bars because you've heard it already, whereas this is keeping your attention the whole time. But let's just listen on from here. Now, I just did a little inquisitive look there because, I've got reference speakers here, I've got a sub as well, so I can hear everything pretty clearly, and I think there's definitely Chris's voice in the backing vocals. Undoubtedly, from what I just heard, it is his voice. So it might be the case that they're playing to a click track here, at least the drummer is, and they are triggering some of these backing vocals. So you've got Chris's voice behind his voice live. That's the thing that you can do nowadays. If you've got the potential to do it, why not have that really full sound rather than, getting in lots of other singers who might not blend as well? It's a lot better to have Chris's voice maybe 2 or 3 times and then the rest of the band live than kind of leave that out and have a thinner sound.
The things you
And then we get the perfect return to where we started, just organ sound and voice. And it's something that I've referred to in other videos about bands that either finish at the top of that mountain, so everything will be dynamically open, the singer will hit their high note, in chest voice belting, and then that'll be the end of the song, and then everyone is just kind of jumping up and down, going crazy, because dynamically that's where they've left the audience. But here it's that conscious decision to open up dynamically, but then for the end, bring everything back down to leave you in that place of contemplation rather than overly excited or being overly excited. They want that contemplation at the end, just bringing it down. So again, it's something that is a tiny detail, but with a song, you've got to just perform it, execute it, and leave people where you want to leave them emotionally. Obviously, being able to do that is a whole nother thing. You've got to be a great band. You've got to have great songs that connect emotionally with an audience. And that's definitely something that you can say about Coldplay. Their audience is fully engaged in the emotion of the performance because of how they execute it musically and dynamically. That's the most important thing. Dynamics, great melody, not overplaying. This is another thing that if you overplay, you lose people because it's too much information. Whereas this is a conversation that everyone has a voice in because they can understand it. It's not going off into a crazy guitar solo because that would be irrelevant to the emotion that you're feeling and that the band and the song wants you to feel. So really interesting one to take a look at tonight. Hopefully this video hasn't gone on for too long, but it's easy to kind of get distracted and start looking at lots of other things because there is so much in this performance, but not only that, just Coldplay in general, their sound, their songwriting, and then their live performance. And executing at this level obviously is massively impressive, but they've got the show element as well with the fireworks going off at exactly the right points where the dynamic sound is just blown open. That's where you get the blowing off of fireworks. So yeah, I mean, great live show to look at here, but great sound, great execution. Thank you guys for suggesting this particular video for me to take a look at. As always, keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comments section below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!